Dear students, in previous two sessions we have taken a overview of blockchain technology. As I said in previous session, we have to go into the details of this blockchain technology gradually. So in this session also we will take the review of blockchain technology. We will try to go into the details of this blockchain technology. So the growth of Bitcoin and blockchain technology has been so rapid that even those who have not heard about the cryptocurrency and know about its working are looking to invest and explore this field. So in this subject, we have to understand the fundamentals of this Bitcoin and blockchain technology. So in this session, we will take the revision of blockchain technology, and again we will try to understand the basic details of this blockchain technology. Blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies have today become a parallel platform where the people have started performing their transactions on this platform, and if a new system is slowly replacing an existing system, that means there are some issues with the old system. So in previous lecture, in previous session also we have studied the drawbacks of traditional transaction system, or we can say current banking system. So we will revise again that drawbacks. Any existing system will have some issues, and let us we will look into the commonly faced issues with the current banking system. So in current banking system, there are transaction fees. When we do the transaction fees are imposed by the banks. Then second problem in the current banking system is double spending. So we will try to understand the problem of double spending. Double spending is an error in digital cash scheme in which the same single digital token is spent twice or more. So same digital token is duplicated, and that digital token can be spent twice. By duplicating or falsifying the digital tokens associated with every digital transaction, we can complete this transaction without the needed balance. Even if we don't have the balance in our account, by duplicating the digital tokens we can complete the transaction. So this is the problem of traditional banking system. Then next problem in the traditional banking system is financial crisis, crashes and frauds. To understand this problem, imagine that you are giving all your savings or money to someone you trust, and if that party has gone and lost it somewhere, then it is difficult to get your investment. So that is what happened in 2007 and 2008, when banks and investment organizations has borrowed heavily and lent it as subprime mortgages to people who could not even pay back these loans. This in turn led to one of the greatest financial crises ever seen, and was estimated to have caused losses close to $11 trillion worldwide. Then second problem in the banks is there are frauds, and because of the frauds also, if the bank lost its creditability, then also there is a problem in getting our money. Then the next problem in the banking system is the net frauds, and everyone knows this problem. Nowadays there are attackers, they are attacking and there are cyber crimes happening, and your balance, your amount is not secured in traditional banking systems. So we will look into the details of how does a blockchain will solve these issues. So in blockchain, the blockchain follows a decentralized approach where, as compared to the banks and financial organization, which are controlled. These financial organizations are controlled and governed by the central or federal authorities. Here, everyone who is the part of the system becomes equally responsible. In blockchain technology, every participant is equally responsible for the growth and downfall of the system. So rather than one single entity holding the power, everyone who is involved in the blockchain system holds some power. In blockchain system, there is a concept of public ledgers, or we can say the shared ledgers. In previous session also we have studied this. And the ledgers which holds the details of all transactions which happen on the blockchain. Blockchain is open and completely accessible to everyone. Now, the blockchain is completely open. It is accessible to everyone who is associated with the system. Once you join the blockchain network, then you can download the complete list of transactions since its initial state. Even though the complete ledger is publicly accessible, the details of the people involved in the transaction remains completely anonymous. So in this blockchain technology, the details of the identity of the participants, identity of the person who will initiate the transaction is confidential. It is hidden. And then next property of the blockchain technology is every transaction is in the blockchain technology is verifiable. Every single transaction is verified by cross-checking the ledger, and the validation signal of the transaction is sent after a few minutes through the uses of several complex encryption and hashing algorithms. The issue of the double spending problem is also solved in the blockchain technology. In next feature of the blockchain technology, in previous session also we have studied that the transaction fees are less, or we can say there is no transaction fee in the blockchain technology. The transaction fees are usually not applicable, but in certain variants of blockchain that implement certain minimum transaction fees. These transaction fees are however relatively low as compared to the traditional banks or other financial organization. If transaction needs to be completed on priority, then an additional transaction fee can be added by the user so as to have the transaction verified on priority, and that transaction completed can be completed on time and within deadline. Features of blockchain technology. Below are some important features of blockchain technology that has made it a revolutionary technology. So in previous session we have studied what is blockchain. Blockchain is a chain of blocks, and these blocks are linked through the hash function. So in this blockchain technology, the hash value is calculated from the data, and blockchain technology uses SHA-256 hash function to calculate the hash value. So we will see into the details of this hash function, and then it also uses the public key cryptography. So we will see in the next session what is this public key cryptography. Then in blockchain technology, there is a concept of distributed ledger, and this ledger is shared among the nodes, and for this it uses peer-to-peer node network. And for security of transaction, it has also one more mechanism, that is proof of work. And there is a concept of incentives for validation. The participants will get incentives on validation of transactions. So we will go and see in detail. So before understanding the blockchain, we will try to understand the concept of Bitcoin in short. Bitcoins are a cryptocurrency and digital payment system invented by unknown programmer or a group of programmers under the name Satoshi Nakamoto. This Satoshi has published white paper, and because of this white paper, the world come to know about this Bitcoins technology. So these Bitcoins are similar to the digital cash that exist as bits on people's computers. Bitcoins exist only in the cloud like PayPal, Citrus or Paytm. Bitcoin system is peer-to-peer network based and transaction take place between users directly without an intermediate. There is no need of any third party. This transaction will take place directly between the participants. These transactions are verified by the network nodes and recorded in a public distributed ledger called a blockchain. So blockchain provides a infrastructure for this Bitcoin. The information about the Bitcoins, the owner of the Bitcoin and transaction, all this information is stored in the blockchain. So Bitcoin get created whenever a block containing valid transaction is added to the blockchain. So whenever the transaction is committed, whenever the transaction is validated, the block which contains the transaction, that block is added to the blockchain. This is the only means for creating the Bitcoins. We have to the block is created and block is inserted in the blockchain. By this way, this is the only way the transaction will happen. And through these various mathematical and encryption algorithms, we ensure no fake Bitcoins are created or circulated. There are different types of cryptographic technique like public key, then hash and digital signals. And because of these encryption methods, mathematical models, the Bitcoins are secured. So in previous lecture also we have studied what is blockchain. Each block in a blockchain contains three type of values: data, hash and hash of the previous. So whenever the block is inserted into the blockchain, whenever any party initiates a transaction, the block is created. That block has the information about the transaction, that we can say data. Then hash is calculated from the data, and this block will contain the hash of the previous value. So whenever the transaction is committed, whenever the transaction is validated by the participants, then the new block is added in the blockchain. And once the block is added in the blockchain, that block is permanent. It cannot be changed. It cannot be replaced. This concept we have studied in the previous lecture also. So you can see in this figure how the new blocks are added in the blockchain technology. So what is blockchain? In previous lecture also we have seen this figure. Blockchain can be defined as a sequence of hash chain blocks that contains information, and it is not possible to backdate them or tamper these blocks. Once the block is added, it is difficult to tamper this block. If we try to change the data in the block, then hash will also change, and that block will become invalid, and that block needs to be validated by the other nodes also. And if that nodes don't validate the block, then that blockchain will become invalid. So it is difficult to change the blocks in the blockchain. So in previous lecture we have studied the blockchain architecture. Blockchain is a chain of hash linked blocks which contain information. Each block has three type of values: data, hash and hash of the previous block, and these blocks are linked through the hash value. In figure you can see there are three blocks: block 1, block 2 and block 3. First block in the blockchain is called genesis block, and next block, block 2 is linked to the first block through the hash value. So each block contains three values: data, hash and hash of the previous block, and this hash is calculated from the data. 15 minutes. So we will try to understand the hash. In previous session also we have understood the hash. Each block has a hash. This hash is determined from the data. The hash is like a fingerprint which is unique to each block. It identifies a block and all of its contents. It is always unique, and if we give the input to a hash function is like a mathematical function that will convert input data into the hash, and after converting that data into the hash, it is difficult to reconstruct the original input from the hash. So hash is like a type of mathematical function which turns data into the fingerprint of that data called hash. It is like a formula which takes the input and turns it into a output of fixed length which represents the fingerprint of the data. There are several types of hash functions. This blockchain uses SHA-256. So here the example is given in previous session also. We have seen this example. If we try to convert the sentence hello from bits on blocks, then the hash value you can see in the figure. This hash value is difficult to understand, difficult to interpret, and it is not possible to reconstruct the original value from this hash. Every good hash function have the property that it should not allow to calculate the original data from the hash function. If it allows to calculate the original data from hash function, then any attacker can calculate the original input value from the hash. So if hash data changes, then hash will also change in unpredictable way. So this blockchain uses SHA-256 hash function. The core hash algorithm used in blockchain technology is this SHA-256. It is a one-way cryptographic function, and it is a fixed size for any size of source text. Whatever the text will you give, it will convert into a fixed length output, and you can see the figure. Hello word is converted into the hash value. It is difficult to interpret this hash value, and if we try to change the input, the hash value will also change. So then blockchain also uses public key cryptography. Public key cryptography is asymmetric cryptography. It is an encryption scheme that uses two mathematically related but not identical keys, public keys and private keys. Unlike symmetric key algorithms that rely on one key to both encrypt and decrypt data, each key performs a unique function. In public key cryptography, there are two types of keys: public keys and private key. The public key is used to encrypt the data, and private key is used to decrypt the data. It is computationally infeasible to calculate the private key based on the public key. We cannot calculate the private key based on the public key. So in coming sessions we will learn more about this public key. Then in blockchain technology, there is a distributed ledger. Ledger is shared by every participant, every node. Every single person on the network has a copy of the ledger, and there is no single centralized copy. Each participant, each node have the copy of these distributed ledgers, and in this ledger the transactions are recorded. There are no accounts and balances in the Bitcoin blockchain ledger. Every transaction from the first one is stored on a continuous growing database called blockchain. So every transaction is stored on the blockchain. Whenever the new transaction is will happen, the block is created and block is inserted in the blockchain, and this blockchain or you can say ledger is shared by all the participants, all the nodes in the peer-to-peer network. This ledger is distributed across all users of Bitcoin blockchain. That is, the ledger has no central location where it is stored. Everyone on the network owns a copy of the ledger, and the true copy is the collection of all distributed ledgers. In previous session also we have seen the blockchain technology uses one more technique for security apart from hash. Hash is the excellent mechanism to prevent tampering of data, but computers nowadays become powerful, and in a matter of few minutes an attacker can tamper with a block, and it can recalculate the original value from the hash value, and blockchain can become valid again, because when we change the data in the block, that blockchain will become invalid, but the attackers can make the blockchain valid by calculating the hash value. So to avoid this issue, blockchain uses the concept of proof of work. So in coming sessions we have to see what is this concept of proof of network. So in previous session we have studied how the blockchain transaction works. If some person wants request a transaction, the transaction could be involved cryptocurrencies, contracts, records, or other information. The first step is that the transaction is requested. Then second step is the requested transaction is broadcasted to a peer-to-peer network with the help of nodes, and every node has to validate the transaction. The network of nodes validate the transaction and the user status with the help of known algorithms, and once the transaction is complete, the new block is then added to the existing blockchain in such a way that block will become permanent in the blockchain. That block cannot be altered, it cannot be changed. So you can see the figure in previous session also we have seen this figure. Transaction is requested, then next step is that transaction is broadcasted, then third step is transaction is validated by the all participants, by all nodes in the blockchain, and then that after validation that transaction will be committed, that transaction will be finalized, and that transaction the block which contains the transaction is added to the blockchain. So in today's session we have revised the blockchain technology. We have taken a review of blockchain technology. We have studied the limitations of traditional transaction system, then what is blockchain, blocks in a blockchain. We have studied hash function, public key cryptography, and how the transaction will happen in the blockchain technology. So we will wind up this today's session, and in the next session we will continue with this blockchain technology. Thank you.